Hello everyone, Cindy here with Monarch Mom DIY. Thank you so much for joining me today on my channel where I love to bring you the best tips and tools to inspire you to create beautiful home decor on a budget. I'm very excited for today's video as I am bringing you my top 24 patriotic DIYs that I've done over the years. I hope you enjoy them, and with all that being said, let's get crafty. Today's first DIY is this God Bless America flag canvas using a wrapped canvas, this wood God Bless America sign from Hobby Lobby, and some Waverly chalk paint. Now, I believe this is a 16 by 20 canvas, and then I just used some washi tape to mark off my rectangle that I'm going to paint with Waverly's color called Ocean. I love this blue. It's got a little bit of a country, maybe some gray in it, but I just really love it for patriotic decor. And I'm going to give that one coat of that ocean in that top rectangle. Now this is from Hobby Lobby. They do have these again this year, and I'm just filling in with some wood filler the holes at the top that had the jute string, because we're not going to be hanging this. We're going to be attaching it to the front of our canvas. I'm going to use that same Waverly chalk paint in the color Ocean, and I'm very carefully just going to paint the top. I'm trying to not get paint down on the edges, and I'm doing all the words in Ocean, and then I'm just going to do the 2 stars in lacquer with Waverly chalk paint. You could also use crimson. It is a very, very similar color. So we'll get that all painted, and then moving back to our canvas, I did move the washi tape now to cover the edges of the blue, and then I spritzed some water on my canvas and kind of spread out the water. I'm going to give a little bit of a watercolor effect. Now just dry brushing some of the lacquer in stripes using a chippy brush, and you can see how the water is kind of giving it an effect there. And once I have dry brushed on a wet canvas my lacquer, I'm going to take some of it up with this bigger brush, but I was having a hard time getting the red on the white stripes, so then I decided just to take a paper towel and wipe away the excess. This gives you a nice muted look to your red stripes, and then because the canvas is still damp, you can go ahead and just wipe where the white stripes are. Then I did remove the washi tape from my blue rectangle. Next, I'm taking this paint marker by Magnolia Design Company, and I just decided to make some wavy lines there to mark off the blue rectangle. You're going to see that paint marker come into play towards the end of this project. For my stars, I could have glued wood stars on, but I decided to use some of these white star buttons that I got at Walmart. They had red, white, and blue, and they're all different sizes, so I just used some of the white ones. And then I'm taking my God Bless America from Hobby Lobby that I painted, and we're going to hot glue this down into the bottom right corner of our flag canvas, just using some hot glue and lining that up at the bottom there and attaching that down. Now I'm going to add a little bit more detail with the black chalk marker or chalk paint marker, and going around the edges just so it kind of defines the edges a little bit more and gives it a little bit of a whimsical look. I love how this turned out. You could definitely use some of these techniques for any other type of canvas painting. Doesn't have to be patriotic, but I love how all the elements of this project came together. DIY number 2 is this metal star shiplap sign. We're using some 5-gallon paint sticks, 3 of these metal stars from Dollar Tree, and our chalk paint. So the first thing I did was remove the tags and the jute twine hangers from all 3 of my metal stars. I did give these a quick spray of a matte finish clear spray. I thought maybe it would help the chalk paint stick a little bit better. But on 2 of my metal stars, I'm going to paint them entirely with my white Waverly chalk paint. And I do end up also painting the edges of each of the stars. And then our 3rd star, we're going to use that blue color called Ocean. And again, I'm just going to give these one good coat, and then I did spray them again with the clear matte spray. Now, using 5 of the paint sticks, I'm turning them over to their backs, and then I'm using some of the giant craft sticks, hot gluing them across, and this is going to hold our paint sticks together. You could also use this idea in a smaller version using wood stars and maybe one of those rectangular trays from Dollar Tree. But now that they're all glued together, I'm giving this just one coat, again, of my white Waverly chalk paint. You could do this in any of the 3 Patriotic colors, whichever you prefer. Now, using that same washi tape as I used on the canvas, I'm going to use this to make stripes on my 2 white stars. You can see I'm putting the second piece right up against the first one, and then another one right up against that one, but then I'm going to take the middle one out. So I'm going to keep doing this until I get stripes of washi tape or the white star showing through all the way up and down my star. And we will do this for both of our white stars. Then once we have our tape stripes all the way across our stars, I'm going to take my lacquer chalk paint and I'm going to paint all the places between the strips of tape. This is going to give us our red stripes, and then when we take off the washi tape, we will have our white stripes that are underneath. It's always so fun when you peel either tape like this or a stencil and reveal the look that you were going for. I just liked this skinny stripes from the washi tape, and this was super easy to do. Once all my stripes were done, I did take these out to the garage and spray them with clear matte spray. Then on my blue star, I took an ultrafine white painter's marker from Walmart, and I just decided to draw white stars randomly on the blue star and fill those in. And I felt like this worked really well. My stars were not all the same size. They were close to the same shape. You could use white star stickers if you want instead of drawing them, but I kind of liked the look of drawing them. And I did spray that one as well once the stars were dry. After sanding my board just to get any bumps off, I laid my 3 stars on top, and I did use a little pencil to mark where they were. Because these are metal, I used little dots of E6000 and then weighted my metal stars down to try to get them to adhere really well to the board. I did also end up reinforcing the tops of each star with some hot glue as well around the edges. And here's the finished project. I just love how bright and crisp and clean it looks, and patriotic, and it doesn't even need any words. DIY number 3 is going to be this magnetic door sign made out of a Dollar Tree pizza pan, some ribbon, some Dollar Tree magnets, and this welcome stencil from Magnolia Design Co. So the first thing I did with my pizza pan, you can see I'm painting the back, but I did give it a spray also of the clear matte spray, just again to give it one more little layer for the paint to stick to. I'm going to give that 2 coats of white chalk paint, And then I sprayed it again with my clear matte spray. Then using my same washi tape, I'm blocking out a section that I'm going to now paint with our black chalk paint, kind of to make it look a little bit like a chalkboard. But because this sign is going to be changing for different seasons or holidays, I wanted the sign itself to be very neutral so that whatever color or design of bow was at the top, it wouldn't clash. So once I had the black paint on there, I'm peeling the washi off, and then we'll spray that again with some clear matte. Now I'm going to use this stencil that says, "Welcome to our porch or home, sit long, talk much, laughed often." I'm just going to use the word welcome. So you can see I fuzzed my stencil on my tacky cloth so it's not going to be too sticky. And then once I had the word welcome lined up in my black stripe there on my pizza pan, I'm using my white chalk paste and I'm just pressing that across the mesh to just stencil the word welcome. You can also see at the top of my pizza pan, I took a screwdriver and a hammer, and I also made these 2 holes so that I can add a jute string to hang our sign. I just love peeling these stencils. They look so awesome. All right, I'm going to make a bow with 2 different ribbons. This actually was a Christmas ribbon, but I love that it's just the burlap and the red rickrack. So once I just have it folded over, so I have 2 tails and 2 loops, I am just using some of this floral wire to kind of tie it together in the center. And then we will trim our tails and dovetail them a little bit once we get our wire right there in the middle and nice and tight. Just twist it a bunch of times and then you can trim off the excess. Another thing you could use are zip ties. That is probably a little stronger, but for this the floral wire was going to be fine. Now if you fold over the tail and go from the outside down towards the center, you can get a nice dovetailed look there on your bow. This is the other ribbon I'm using. I got this one just the other day at Hobby Lobby. It is also a wired ribbon, and you can see how I'm kind of folding it over, and then you just twist it in the back so that both of your tails are showing the front design of your ribbon. Just finagle it there in your hands, and then once you have it laying like this with your 2 loops and your 2 tails, again, you take a piece of the floral wire and twist it around the center and get it nice and tight, and then trim off the excess as well. Next, we're going to stack our slightly smaller bow on top of the larger one. Take another piece of floral wire, and now we're going to tie these together to make one larger bow. And this is basically what I'm going to plan on doing for each season or holiday. I will put this one up, and then maybe in August I'll change it to kind of a bee theme or a lemon theme ribbon. Dollar Tree's been carrying lots of different ribbons, so this should be easy to change out for the holidays. I did put a red star button in the center, and then I'm just taking one of these magnets from Dollar Tree and I'm gluing it to the back of my bow. While that glue's drying, I'm going to take some thin jute twine from Dollar Tree. I doubled it, put a knot, and then we'll cut off the excess there, and then we'll come back through the other hole from the back to the front, and we'll tie another knot to secure our jute string for hanging. Now I wanted to make sure I did this first because I plan on taking some nautical rope all around that edge, and so I wanted this underneath so that it would be hidden by the nautical rope. So here you can see I'm taking that nautical rope and just putting a bead of hot glue right down the center of that edge, and we'll go all the way around our pizza pan. And once our nautical rope is all the way around and the magnet on our bow is dry, we can just stick that there at the top of our pizza pan. And like I said, change that out for whatever season or holiday it happens to be. For DIY number 4, we're going to make this cute patriotic flower box. We're going to use 3 wooden crates from Dollar Tree and 2 of these hanging arrow signs, as well as some florals and chalk paint. So the first thing I did is, with my pliers, remove the staples and the ribbons from the signs, and then I did spray some water to try to scrape off the glitter, and then just decided to peel off those paper signs from that side. It was a lot easier to do. Then with 3 of my arrows, I'm using my Waverly chalk paint in the color lacquer. You could also use crimson if they don't have lacquer at your store. And I am doing just the front and the sides a little bit. Then with my other 3 arrows, I'm using my white Waverly chalk paint and doing the same thing, just giving them 1 coat of the chalk paint on the front and the side edges. With my 3 wood crate boxes, I'm using the Waverly chalk paint color Ocean. I am loving it for Patriotic crafts this season, and it's kind of a grayish blue, but you can use any blue paint that you might have on hand. Because I'm going to be gluing these 3 boxes together, I will not be painting the sides that will be glued. So once those are dry, you can see I also did paint the inside. That's optional, of course. And then just using some of my Type Bond wood glue, I'm gluing the sides together, and then using a couple of my clamps from Dollar Tree just to hold them tightly together until that glue is dry. Then once we have all 3 of these glued together and clamped, we will set that aside for a little while until they're dry. Then going back to our arrows that we painted, you can see I have them I have them lined up on my little ruler there. And then I'm going to put some wood glue on the back side of my wood crate trio. And then we're just going to glue that across the bottom of our arrows, and that's going to hold everything together. Next, I'm taking 3 of these wood stars that are from Walmart, giving those a coat of white Waverly chalk paint on the front and the side edges as well. We're going to paint all 3 of those to go across our blue crates once those are dry. So now just taking some hot glue, you can see I'm putting glue everywhere except for the little top part of the star that sticks up past the crate, and just gluing each star in the center of the blue crate, getting those lined up, and then our planter is done. Now I'm going to take some floral foam. I happen to have 1 little brick here that I'm going to cut into thirds so I can put a small piece in the bottom of each of my crates. I am going to go ahead and put some hot glue on the bottom side of the floral foam so that it stays inside the crate well, and we'll do that to all 3. And then we'll go ahead and just start adding the florals. I'm going to use some of the blue wildflowers that I love, some little white flowers, and then some greenery. And here's our finished flower box. I love it. I love the bright colors for Memorial Day and the 4th of July. I plan on keeping this out all summer. You would want to spray it with some clear spray if you're going to put it outside. DIY number 5 is a USA map palette sign. We're going to use this color your own decor shaped like the United States, a background sign, and some blue and white star paper. So again, using the lacquer, I have this sign that obviously I sanded whatever was on it off, and I'm going to paint the top and bottom sections with the lacquer chalk paint, and then we'll also paint the middle section with white just to give it the illusion of the American flag with the red and white stripes. Next, I'm going to use this USA wood color your own map here, but I'm going to apply some Mod Podge to the front of it, and then I will link in the description box where I printed this blue paper with white stars. I just did this on my printer, and I'm going to Mod Podge it to the front of the little USA map. Once I get it all smoothed out, I will do another layer of Mod Podge over top. I will say that when I was rubbing it with the brush a lot and then with my fingers, it did kind of, I don't know, make it look a little dirtier where the stars are, but I kind of liked that because I was kind of going for an older vintage look. Then, because this is such an intricate shape, I'm using my mini sander to do downward strokes until I get most of the paper off from around the edges. You might have to use an X-Acto knife, but I was able to get it all off using my little sander. And here's what it looks like. Next, taking some of these laser cut wood stars from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use those with the Scrabble tiles. But first, I'm going to just hot glue my USA map now to the center of my red and white box sign. Once I had that down, I wanted to add a little bit of whimsy, so I'm using a Sharpie and I'm doing little squiggles and dots just to kind of outline the USA map and then also give a little bit of an edging to the box sign as well. Also notice that I did not put the USA map right in the center. I did put it down a little bit. I wanted to leave some space so that I can add a messy bow to the top at the very end. I did also do some little stitching marks around my Scrabble tiles, again, just to give some more dimension and make it pop out. I'm going to put a hot glue dot in the center of each of these wood laser cut stars and apply those first to the USA map, and then I will glue the Scrabble letter in the center of each star. Next, I'm going to take some of my Patriotic colored ribbons that I have on hand. I'm going to cut them at about 8 inches, but you'll see some of them I am going to cut a little bit shorter. I'll cut 2 pieces of each ribbon, and I'm just going to make a messy crisscross bow. So there you see I've got the wired burlap ribbon with the red and white zigzag. Then I have a couple others that I've picked up at Dollar Tree, or I think Hobby Lobby maybe was that red, white, and blue one in their summer crafts section. But just go through your ribbon, pick out some that will kind of all coordinate, and then you're gonna just lay them like this in a wide X, going back and forth until you have all of them layered. And then I'm going to use a zip tie. That is actually the easiest way. I just get my zip ties at Dollar Tree and we'll cinch it all together in the center. You can also see that some of my ribbons, I'm not layering them exactly right on top of each other. I want to try to layer them so that you can see all of the ribbons. Then just stick your zip tie underneath and then cinch it right there in the center, kind of fluffing it as you go. And this is a super easy way to make a messy, cute bow. Now, when I set it on top here, you can see some of the ribbons are a little long because they're floppy. And so I am going to trim a lot of the ribbons, either just at an angle, or some of them I am going to dovetail. And all that means is you fold the ribbon in half like you see me doing here and cut downward towards the middle of the ribbon. So just keep playing with it, trim your ribbons, and then once you have it how you want it, then you can glue it to your project. Then as a final touch, I'm just going to add a couple star-shaped buttons from Walmart to the center of our bow, and here is our finished product. This can hang on a wall or it can sit on a shelf or a table, and I just love it. It just makes me so happy. DIY number 6 is this Patriotic banner garland. This is actually sold as a DIY kit from my Magnolia Design Co. website, and these Freedom mini stencils along with some fabric. Now, the Freedom Minis comes with 12 small square stencils. So I'm picking out which 10 I'm going to use for my pennant garland. This is also from Magnolia, and it's already sewn. Very great quality. It's already strung on the jute twine, and they're stitched in place so they don't move around. Anyway, I'm just marking on the back of my stencils what they are so that I can put them back on the right sheet. And because I'm stenciling on fabric, I do not need to fuzz my stencils ahead of time. I'm just centering them and pressing them down securely. And I'm actually even using chalk paste. I'm not using ink. This is not going to be outside. It's not going to get wet. So I'm okay using chalk paste. I am using some very small pieces of cut apart squeegee because I am doing blue and red paste close to each other. So I'm doing 4 stencils at a time, only because that's how many I can fit across my craft space. I'm going to do all my blue on those 4 stencils, and then I'm going to come back and do my red. And my favorite part of stenciling, the peel and reveal. You can just see how great these images are. And you can see I made a couple mistakes, maybe getting the red and blue inks mixed a little bit, going off the stencil, but I just love how easy these are to use. Here's my next 4 stencils. Again, using red and blue on different parts, using my small cut apart squeegees. And again, for the peel and reveal, love these. And now I'm going to take these to my sink and rinse them off with cool water. I just rub where the paste is, and these clean up pretty easily. Now my last 2, my 9th and 10th pieces of my pennant garland. Again, going to do the same thing. Red, then blue, then we'll peel them off to finish up our banner. Next, I'm going to take some red gingham and blue gingham fabric that I believe are from Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut little strips that are 2 squares wide, and then I'm just ripping it. I'm going to end up using, I think, 5 or 6 pieces of each of the colors. Actually 6, I think. And we're going to be tying these in knots between our pieces of our pennant garland. And then I'm coming back to those same ribbons that I used for the USA map sign, and I'm cutting long strips. I'm going to cut 3 pieces of each of 3 ribbons for a total of 9. So now you can see between each flag of my garland, I'm going to just put one of these strips of either the blue and white check or the red and white check, and I'm going to tie it in a knot and just kind of let it hang down between the flags there. I'm going to do blue and red every other, and then I believe on the outside I did a blue and a red on the far right and on the far left. Then once I get these fabric strips in here, I'm going to start adding in my ribbons. I'm just going to use 1 ribbon in each space. And here's my finished garland hanging on my mantle. I love it so much, and I love how adding the ribbon and the fabric strips just really adds a lot to this pennant garland. DIY number 7 was super fun to make. It's this patriotic tiered tray using 2 of these round signs from Dollar Tree, as well as some tumbling tower blocks, a wood plaque circle from Walmart, and a recycled bottle. So taking 2 of these cardboard signs from Dollar Tree, I started removing some of the glitter, and then I realized I really didn't need to do that because I'm going to take some wood glue and I'm going to glue these together, picture sides on the inside. So like I said, using a bunch of wood glue, I'm going to line these 2 square signs up just to make a thicker, more sturdy surface for the base of our tiered tray. I am going to use my clamps again from Dollar Tree. These are really awesome for holding things together until glue dries. You've already seen me use them a couple times in this video. So if you don't have these clamps from Dollar Tree, I suggest you get them. I have this size and I also have the smaller ones. Then just using my scraper there, I removed the tags. Now for my larger base, I'm using 46 tumbling tower blocks to go around. And for my smaller circle, I'm using 26. So here I'm using half of the top 26 and half of the bottom 46, if that makes sense. I'm going to be painting these red and white. So these are all the ones I'm painting with the lacquer Waverly chalk paint, and then I'm going to paint the rest with the white chalk paint. Now the way I paint these is I do the top, and then once the top is dry, I do all the rest of the sides, and so I can hold on to them while they are drying or while I'm painting them. Now coming back to our 2 wood circles, which will be our 2 trays, I am using that Waverly chalk paint in the color Ocean again. And I will also say that once these were dry, I did paint the top, the bottom, and the edges. I did use a Mod Podge just to seal everything in. I used a gloss Mod Podge this time, and I did kind of like the shiny texture it gave, but again, just use whatever you have on hand. I also have 4 of these wood little candle cups. I believe these are from Hobby Lobby that I'm going to use as feet for my tiered tray just to make it stand up a little higher. Now you can see I've got my base and I have all those 46 red and white tumbling tower blocks lined up. I'm showing hot glue here, but I will say that I did end up going back. I think because of the gloss Mod Podge, I did need to use E6000 so that these had a permanent bond. And with the E6000, you do have a little bit more time to kind of move them around if you need to. But if you're going to make one of these, I would definitely say line all the blocks up, even though it takes time, so that you know they're all going to fit before you start gluing them down. Same thing here with my smaller circle, my top layer. I'm using E6000 here and lining up those 26 tumbling tower blocks. This project did take a little bit of time, but I have to say of this video, I love this one the most. Of all the projects I made in this video, I just love how it turned out. And then I glued the feet on once my tumbling tower blocks were completely dry. This is my bottom layer turned upside down, and I'm gluing these 4 candle cups just at basically north, south, east, and west, and then we will let those dry as well. Now here is our top section turned upside down. You can see I'm using E6000 on the lid of this salad dressing bottle that I did spray paint white. I had set it down and marked with a pencil about where the center would be before I put the E6000 on. Here I'm just kind of using my ruler just to check and make sure it's pretty close to the middle. I can move it around a little bit if I need to. Now that that's dry, I have my bottom tray turned back over the right way, and I'm again gluing the bottom now of that jar or that bottle to that bottom part of our tray. Again, using the ruler to make sure I have it pretty close to the center, and then just let that dry completely. I did decide to add some jute twine around kind of the base where the tumbling tower blocks are glued to the circle, just to hide any excess glue and just give it a different texture and a finished look. And here's what our adorable little patriotic tiered tray looks like with nothing in it first. I'm just going to show you the tiered tray, and then I'll show you what it looks like styled with just a couple of items. For DIY number 8, we're going to make this rag wreath using a wreath form from Dollar Tree, a few different Patriotic fabrics from Walmart and Dollar Tree, and that's about it. Each one measures 18 inches by 22 inches, and we are going to cut it into strips that measure 7.5 inches by 2 inches. So first, on the 22-inch side, I'm measuring 7.5 inches and cutting that, and then another 7.5 inches, and then with what's left over, I'm turning it and getting just a couple more 7.5-inch strips. Now with my 7.5-inch strip, I'm cutting every 2 inches. You do need a total of about 122 strips for this project. This part of the project does take the longest, and honestly, I should have replaced the blade on my rotary cutter before attempting this. With a new blade, it's definitely much easier and faster. At the top, you can see my 7 piles of my material. I laid them out in an order that didn't have 2 blues next to each other or 2 reds. And I went ahead and I'm doing the outside, the largest circle of the wreath form first. You will put 7 fabric strips in each section of the wreath on this outer ring, and then 5 in each section of the other 3 rings. Here I'm showing you how to fold the fabric in half and loop it under the wire, and then stick the 2 ends through and pull. Here's what the wreath looks like after doing the outer edge, 7 on each. Then here's the next one in, 5 on each section. The next one in, 5 more on each section, and the inner ring, 5 on each section. I decided to add something to the middle, this God Bless America and star from the Dollar Tree. So I turned over my wreath, and I'm just going to tack it down on the 2 corners of God and America, and then turn it over and just let it hang. And here's what it looks like hanging on my front door. For DIY number 9, we're going to make this pretty large pool noodle Americana wreath using 2 blue pool noodles from Dollar Tree, some red, white, and blue florals, and some greenery, and some burlap ribbon as well. So the first thing I'm going to do, taking 6 of my tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree, I am gluing them together here, as you can see, 2 side by side, and then a third one on top. So what I'm making here are basically pegs. I'm going to, in just a second, you'll see me glue it into one of the ends of the pool noodle, but I'm only going to push it in about halfway after putting some glue on it. And then this is what's going to allow me to connect my two pool noodles together to make one large circle for my wreath. This wreath with the two pool noodles ended up being about 31 inches across. So here you can see now I'm coming back with some more glue on the peg and the pool noodle, and I'm just fitting that other one on there. Once it is dry or almost dry, I'm also going to use some packing tape here, some heavy duty packing tape, to also reinforce that seam where my two pool noodles come together, and I will do this on both sides of my circle. Next, taking one of my rolls of burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree, I'm just hot gluing one end of it kind of at an angle because I'm going to wrap then this entire roll around my wreath. Once the glue is dry, you'll also see that I went ahead and removed all of the ribbon from the spool just so it's easier to feed it around this pool noodle wreath. So while I'm wrapping this ribbon, I'd like to give a big welcome if you're here to my channel for the first time. On my channel, I like to bring you the best tips and tools to create beautiful home decor and crafts on a budget. I do Dollar Tree DIYs. I also do thrift store flips, and also my Monarch Monday videos will be starting up very, very soon. So here you can kind of see how large this wreath is. Now, one roll of the burlap went that far around. I could have added a second one, but didn't think I needed to, because taking some of these red, white, and blue daisies, I clipped them off in sets of 2 with a leaf, leaving some of the stem because honestly, all I did was poke these into the pool noodle. I did not even hot glue any of these flowers or the greenery that you're going to see me use once the flowers are all in place. So arranging florals on a wreath is purely what the creator likes, what looks good to your eye. So you can just arrange your flowers and then your greenery, whatever looks good to you. And here's what our wreath looks like so far with the burlap ribbon and the flowers. Now this is boxwood greenery from Walmart for 97 cents. I did cut pieces of this. I think each stem gave me maybe 4 or 5 pieces. Again, I left the wire stem so that I could simply poke this into the pool noodle around the flowers just to fill it out. I will also say I used 5 bunches of the daisies from Dollar Tree, and I believe 3 bunches of the boxwood from Walmart. And I just love how that greenery really helped fill it out. Now the last thing, I was going to use those foam stars from Dollar Tree, but I decided I wanted to use this star hanging sign that had the 3 stars. If you've seen my other Patriotic DIYs from this year, I've used one of these to trace stars for my Patriotic table runner. But I'm just simply, that blue one, I kind of poked it in to the pool noodle so it would stand up, and then also hot glued it. The 2 red ones, I'm just hot gluing to the pool noodle. So these are probably the only thing on this wreath that maybe wouldn't stand up to a lot of weather like rain, but I'm okay with that. You know, I can easily replace those. So here is my finished wreath. I love how it turned out. It's very big, but not super heavy. I will say that I did put quite a bit of florals and things at the bottom, so it did weigh it down a bit. For my second DIY number 10 is a thrift store watering can upcycle using some spray paint, some crimson chalk paint, some painter's tape, and this watering can from a thrift store. The first thing I did was I spray painted my watering can with the white spray paint. And then here, using this contact paper, I just happen to have the wood grain. I am tracing this wood star from Walmart 3 times on the back side of the contact paper. This is a teaching trick I learned. I actually wanted 6 stars, so I traced 3, and then once I cut out this contact paper, I'm going to fold it in half so that when I cut out 1 star, I'll actually be getting 2 each time. So just using my craft scissors, cutting out my stars. It doesn't matter what the contact paper looks like, because essentially we're using this as a sticker that will then be removed. So now, this actually was the hardest part of this whole project, was trying to peel the backing off of this contact paper. Honestly, it took forever, but I finally got it, and I'm putting 3 stars on each side of my watering can. You'll see when I finally get one with the backing off. There we go. I'm putting them in this bottom section of my watering can. So I first place the center one, and then I will put one on either side of that center star, and then do the same thing on the other side of my watering can. So here's what it looks like with the 3 stars. And then also I'm going to mask off the spout part and also the handle, and then take it back downstairs and spray paint that portion with my blue. It's ink blue is the name of the color. Then I'll remove what I had used to cover up, so that is still white and the handle is still white, and then also peel off my 6 stars so that they are now white. I don't know about you, but I always find this part to be extremely satisfying, to peel off painter's tape or to peel off stickers like this to reveal what looks like underneath. So here's what it looks like with my 3 white stars on each side. Next, I am taking my painter's tape, and I'm going to go all the way around the watering can. You can kind of see there's that little edge there. And I'm going to mask all of this off. And this time I'm going to use chalk paint, because I just want this top portion of the watering can to be red. I will say it did take 2 coats of the Waverly chalk paint in crimson, mostly because of some of that blue spray paint that did get up on that section. But I went around, left that very top rim white, went around the handle to leave that white, and also the side handle. I also decided to paint this part of the spout with the red also, just so I could get a little bit more red on my watering can. And here's what the watering can looks like with its Patriotic makeover. Next, I dumped some of these glass gems that I had left over, and then added some sand on top of that. I don't know if your Dollar Tree had these, but mine had these citronella incense sticks. They came 6 in a pack. For DIY 11, we're going to make this Faith, Family, Freedom flag sign using some wooden stars from Walmart, some sticker letters, some chalk paint, and a board sign. So I bought this already made like that, but you could use a square sign from Dollar Tree, a rectangular sign, whatever you'd like. This is very similar to the kind I've made before on some past videos with 5-gallon paint stir sticks, and then just attaching them on the back. So here I'm taking some painter's tape, and I am first marking off the space of my flag that I'm going to paint blue. This is a Craft Smart acrylic paint from Michael's that I've had for a while. I will make sure to put the name of the color in the description. I believe it's bright blue, and I'm just going to give this area just one quick coat of this blue paint color. While that's drying, I'll take one of these wood stars from Walmart. They come in a pack of 6 for less than $2. And I'm just going to give this a nice coat of Waverly chalk paint in white. Now that my blue paint is dry, I'm using painter's tape now to cover up the edges of the blue area. And then I'm also going to use my painter's tape to tape off the stripes or sections on my sign that are going to be white. So unfortunately, my tape was just a little bit too narrow to just fill in that stripe with one, but we got it on there. So everything that's the stripes that are covered with the tape right now will be white. And so right now I'm using my crimson Waverly chalk paint to paint in my 4 red stripes for my sign. Now that my red stripes are dry, I am again taping off the blue rectangle with new painter's tape, and then I will take more tape and now cover up the red stripes that I painted so that I can then paint my white stripes. And now that my tape is on, I'm going to paint these last 3 stripes with my white chalk paint. Now that my entire flag is dry, I'm just going to use some of my Gorilla Hot Glue and attach my white star now to the center of my blue rectangle. Now there are numerous different ways that you can add words to your sign. I do not have a Cricut, and so I try to show different ways you can do it without a machine like that. One way is to use some sticker letters. These are not from Dollar Tree, but Dollar Tree does have some. And lining them up, just the bottom of them on this ruler, you can help get them straight and evenly spaced. So you can see here I'm writing out the word faith with my sticker letters. I'm not going to keep the stickers on there. I'm actually going to use them as stencil. So you could use another color of sticker and actually Mod Podge them onto your sign. That's another way you could do it. Or like I'm doing here is I'm going to put the stickers on, trace around them with pencil, and then pull them up. And then you'll see how I finish them in just a moment. So here I'm just tracing my letters with my pencil. Here you can see all 3 of my words, faith, family, freedom, on each of the white stripes. Next, I'm taking my Elmer's painter's marker. This is the color blue. It is a medium tip, and now I'm just filling in the letters for my words. Some other things you could write on this besides faith, family, freedom, you could do God bless America. You could do United States of America. Lots of options here, or even leave it with no words. And here's the sign with all 3 words colored in with the blue marker. I wanted to add, again, a little bit more of a rustic look to this. So I'm taking some of my thin jute twine. This is not the Walmart stuff. This is Dollar Tree. And I'm just attaching some with some hot glue on the back. And I'm just going to wrap it 3 times on each of my red stripes, just to add a little bit more texture and dimension to the project. So I will wrap all the way around the sign for my 2 longer red stripes, and then hot glue it again on the back and snip it off. For the top 2 stripes, I had to get a little more creative because of the blue rectangle. So what I'm going to do is just measure here 3 lengths that will start where the blue rectangle ends and then wrap around the back. So here I'm just getting 3 that are about the same length, and just with a tiny little dot of hot glue, because I don't really want it to be that visible, I'm just attaching those 3 strings, and then once that's good and dry, I'll wrap them around like I did on the 2 bottom stripes. And here you can see me finishing that top stripe and just attaching it with the hot glue on the back. Here's our finished sign laying down on the table and again propped up. I love how this turned out. DIY number 12 is super easy. We're making these chunky USA stars using 3 chunky wood stars from Dollar Tree, some scrapbook paper, some poster letters from Dollar Tree, and some white chalk paint. The first thing I'm going to do after removing the jute string is give all 3 of my stars a coat of white Waverly chalk paint. I'm going to go really well all around the edges and then also on the back of the star. We don't need to paint the front because we're going to be putting some scrapbook paper on the front of each of our stars. So I really liked the scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby. It's like red, white, and blue whitewashed barnwood, and so I'm just placing my stars on the back and tracing and cutting out 3 stars from the scrapbook paper that we will then trim up and Mod Podge to the front. And here's the Mod Podge. You can see there that 2 of my stars have a lot of white on them. So I did go back to my scrap of the scrapbook paper and cut some other pieces that once you see the finished product, you'll see I got a little bit more color in there. But anyway, Mod Podge on the star, spritz the back of the paper, and then let that dry completely. Then using sandpaper or a sanding sponge, I'm just going downward on the edges to make sure the paper is nice and trimmed. Then taking these poster letters from Dollar Tree, I'm just putting USA on the centers of my chunky stars. So cute and simple, and I can't wait to add these to my tiered tray for this summer. If you're stopping by my channel for the first time today, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. I hope you'll consider sticking around by hitting that subscribe button. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support of my channel. And I hope everyone will take a moment to tap that bell icon. Just make sure that your notifications are still set to all, so YouTube should let you know each time I upload a new video or go live here on my channel. For DIY number 13, I'm going to show you how to make this patriotic bunting using 5 of these American flag folding fans and 2 mop handles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 mop handles, and I took the handle part off, which left an empty metal side, and then taking the one piece that has the lines on it where the actual mop head was, sticking those 2 together, and then putting one of my 5 fans right at the center. I have it opened up all the way. I'm going to make a small hole there underneath the plastic, and I am going to put this whole thing together with just zip ties. There is no glue involved, and you guys are going to love how this turned out. Just slip that zip tie in and just tighten it up around the mop handle, and we're going to do that with all 5 of our fans, going from this center one out to both the left and the right. And how gorgeous is this? Each fan is held on to the mop handle with 2 zip ties. And then once that was all put together, I did put another zip tie on this far right, one in the middle, and one on the left. And I have the mop handle just sitting on the edge, and then I taped down these 3 zip ties just to hold this in place. I love this, and it literally took me like 15 minutes to put together. I think this was my favorite project from this video. For DIY 14, we're going to make these stars and stripes wood tags using 3 of these tags from Dollar Tree, as well as some scrapbook paper and some poster sticker letters. So I removed the jute string, and then using some Mod Podge on the tag, spraying some water on my paper, I'm going to make one tag that has the blue paper with the white stripes or white stars, and then 2 of my tags are going to have red and white striped scrapbook paper Mod Podged on. Once that scrapbook paper is completely dry, we're using our Fiskars fingertip craft knife and a cutting mat just to go around and get a nice clean cut edge on all 3 of our tags. You can then also use some sandpaper or a sanding sponge to go around and make sure those edges are clean. Now, using my poster sticker letters again from Dollar Tree, on one of my striped signs, I'm spelling the word stars with those sticker letters just going straight down the middle. Then with my blue star paper, I'm going to use white sticker letters to spell and then on the other striped tag, we have to kind of go at a diagonal to make the letters all fit to spell stripes. Now I wanted again to make these look a little more rustic and worn, so I'm using a dauber here and some of my antique wax and just inking around the edges, and then we'll rub away the excess there again just to make it look a little more worn and old. We'll do this to all 3 of our tag signs. Then once everything's dry, just go ahead and seal everything down with Mod Podge. You'll see I go kind of lightly over the stickers first just to make sure they don't pop up, and then over the whole rest of the tag, and then we'll let that dry completely before we are finished, which would be taking a stylus and just finding that hole again where the jute twine was, and then we're going to return some jute twine to be able to hang these 3 signs. And I think these turned out so cute. You could just have them sitting on a shelf like this, if not hanging up, and I just think they're adorable. And they were very easy to make with just 3 of these tag shaped signs. For DIY 15, we're going to make this standing flag sign using 4 wood trays from Dollar Tree, some spray paint, and some jumbo craft sticks, as well as this star stencil from Dollar Tree. I'm going to first spray paint 3 of the trays with the white and 1 tray with the blue. I'll put the names of these colors in the description box below. Once my trays were dry, I took 1 of my large craft sticks and marking where it would fit perfectly on the inside of the tray, I'm just trimming off the ends. And then we'll see if it fits in. I think I needed to trim it just a tiny bit more on one side. So I'm going to need 3 of these for each of my white trays, which means I'm going to do this to 9 of these sticks, just using my first one as a template and then just cutting it with my craft scissors. Once I have my 9 sticks trimmed, I'm going to spray paint them with the Colonial Red Satin Spray Paint. While those are drying and my trays are dry, I'm going to use my Gorilla Wood Glue to attach the top 2 together, holding them securely with my craft clamps from Dollar Tree, and also gluing the bottom 2 together. Now once those were dry, I'm going to now glue the bottom 2 to the top 2, and again use my handy dandy craft clamps to make sure everything is nice and snug until it is dry. My red craft sticks are now dry, and you can see I have them arranged inside the trays, and I'm just using some of my Gorilla Hot Glue to glue them all in where they go. Now I chose to do this project on the insides of the trays. You may choose to turn it around and do all of this on the back side so you can then hang this on the wall. This is just going to sit on a shelf for me. I found this stencil in the new Crafters Square area at Dollar Tree and thought it would be perfect for the stars on my flag sign here. It is a little bit bigger, so I had to really hold it still so that the stencil wouldn't move around, but I'm just dabbing some of my white Waverly chalk paint with the sponge end of a foam brush to get the stars stenciled into that blue tray. And the big reveal, I just love how this stencil worked, and this is how my simple, primitive, farmhouse looking flag sign turned out. DIY number 16 is this Americana truck round using another pizza pan from Dollar Tree, some scrapbook paper, this blue metal truck stake from Dollar Tree, as well as some poster sticker letters. So the first thing I did is I spray painted my pizza pan white, mostly around the edges, a little in the middle, and then I decided I wanted the center of my sign to be this scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby, and I just turned it over to the back, and I'm kind of pressing with my fingers to see where I need to cut out the circle. It won't be exact, but it should fit inside just fine. So once I get that cut out, we'll get that centered there in our pizza pan, and we're going to Mod Podge that on. One of the reasons I do spray a little bit of spray paint on the center of my pan is just to create more of a gritty surface that the Mod Podge can stick to. I do spray also the back of my scrapbook paper. It just seems to help adhere the paper to the Mod Podge without getting any air bubbles. Next, I'm taking some of this white poly rope from Dollar Tree that I had left over from my last video, and I'm just going to go around that space between my scrapbook paper and my pizza pan. This is why I said it's okay if your circle is not perfectly cut, because you'll be filling in that space. Next, I wanted this wood star. This is one of the ornaments from, no it's not. This is from a bag from Michael's of just all sorts of different sizes of wood stars. So I'm just painting that red. Then taking some of these poster letters from Dollar Tree and one of these cutting mats or chopping mats, I'm going to pick out the letters here for the bottom that say Liberty, and I'm just lining them up there on the chopping mat so that I can make sure they're centered. And then just one at a time, I start pressing down the tops of the letters. And then once they're all in place, I just carefully lift out that chopping mat and my letters are all perfectly lined up. Then for the top, I put land and then with smaller letters of. I did want to fill in that space at the bottom with 3 smaller stars. You can see I painted them red, white, and blue. And then on all 4 of my stars, I'm going to take some antique wax, brush it on, and real quickly wipe it off just to give my wood stars a little bit more of an antique look to match the scrapbook paper. And then I'm just going to place and glue the red, white, and blue wood stars there under the word Liberty. And then now, because we have our words in place, we can go ahead and glue down the cute blue metal truck from the garden stake. I'm using some E6000 there in the middle, and then around a couple places on the edges, I'll use hot glue as well for that immediate bond. For my bow at the top, I'm just taking a variety of widths and colors of ribbon, and I'm going to do what I call a crisscross bow. So I'm cutting 2 pieces of this burlap, and then I'm going to lay them down on the table in an X. And then for each remaining ribbon, I'm just going to do the same thing, cut 2 pieces and stack them. There's the red, the white, the red and white gingham check, and then this skinniest one that's like blue and red plaid. And then just taking a piece of jute twine, we're going to tie that in a knot in the center. It's a really easy way to make a bow alternative. I'm just dovetailing my burlap here, and then I will trim the ends of all the other ribbons. And now that the bow is all trimmed up, we're going to put some E6000 on our tray and then use also some hot glue on the back of our ribbon to get that adhered there to the top of our pizza pan sign. And lastly, we'll take our large red star and we're going to glue that down to the center of our bow and then also glue it a little bit to the pizza pan. It'll kind of angle downwards a little bit as the final touch for our sign. And here's what it looks like. I just love this. I love the bright white with also the truck and the cute ribbons at the top. And this could hang on a wall or your front door, or just stand leaning on like a mantle. DIY number 17 is this Patriotic faux book stack. We're going to use a crate from Dollar Tree, some chalk paint, some jute twine, and some little wood stars, as well as these small sticker letters. So I made a spring version of this. I'm just now going to make a red, white, and blue version. So I'm just painting the top section all the way around my crate with my crimson Waverly chalk paint, and then I'm going to jump to the bottom section going all the way around with our blue, which is called Ocean. And then once those are dry, we will tape those off and paint our middle section white. And I don't know about you, but I always get super excited to peel that painter's tape off and see the 3 sections without all that mess that's on the painter's tape. So once the tape is removed, we now have our red, white, and blue books in our book stack. And the next thing I'm going to do is tape off a small line there on the top. I'm going to add some blue, and then later we'll add some stars. So I'm just taping off that top rectangle that is now red, and we're going to paint that with our ocean blue. like this, and then let that dry. Once that is all dry, I'm taking my sticker letters and I'm starting all the way at the right, and I'm going to have the books say faith, family, freedom, just like that. And then we will take some Mod Podge and go over that after I sanded just a little bit in the little crevice between the books. Coming back to those 4 little stars, I'm going to paint those white, and then once those are dry, I'm just going to hot glue those to the top of our book stack just for another little added patriotic touch. Lastly, we're going to wrap our books together with some jute twine. So I'm just taking a little dot of hot glue and attaching the end of the jute twine there. Once that is secure, I'm going to wrap that string around my book stack, about 4 or 5 times, just kind of making it a little spread out, and then we'll trim it and glue the other end inside the crate as well. Then taking a little bit more of the jute string, I'm wrapping it around my 4 fingers a few times, trim that off, and then with another little piece of jute string, tying a knot in the middle to make ourselves a little bow that we will then glue on the top of our book stack to finish it off. And here's our little patriotic mini book stack. I plan on using this in my tiered tray to decorate for the summer, Memorial Day, and the 4th of July season. For DIY number 18, we're going to make this really cute mop head Uncle Sam using some giant craft sticks, the mop head from Dollar Tree, as well as some Jenga blocks, some chalk paint, and a small wood plug. So to start out, I'm using 4 of these giant craft sticks from Walmart's craft section. I'm going to paint 2 of them crimson and 2 of them white with my Waverly chalk paint. To make the stand for our Uncle Sam, I'm using 8 Jenga blocks. You could, of course, use tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree if you'd like. You would probably just need a few more. I'm gluing 4 pairs together like this, and then 2 pairs together like this, so that I can make the front and the back of my stand. Now, I do have this little strip of wood. You could use a piece of a ruler that I am painting with the ocean blue. This is going to be part of Uncle Sam's hat. And then these 6 little wood stars, again, they are from that multi-size pack from Michael's. I'm going to paint these white. And once all of those are dry, I'm just going to space out and then hot glue on these 6 white stars to that blue strip of wood. Now coming back to the tall part of Uncle Sam's hat with the red and white giant craft sticks, I just sanded those a little bit. Then taking 2 more craft sticks, I trimmed down just to glue to the back so that these will all be held together in place. Then flipping that back over, I'm going to take that blue brim of the hat and I'm going to just draw a pencil line here of what will be below the hat. And I'm going to paint this just with a pink color because this is technically going to be where Uncle Sam's face is. So just 1 little coat of pink. And then I'm going to come back to my Jenga blocks now that the wood glue is dry, and I'm just going to paint both pieces of my base completely black. Now, using a mop head from Dollar Tree, I'm going to cut 8-inch lengths, and I used 20, basically 5 to cover each of these craft sticks. So 1 craft stick at a time. I'm taking 4 8-inch pieces of the mop head and sticking the ends there down in the hot glue. And I'm going to repeat this 3 more times until I have Uncle Sam's quote-unquote face completely covered by his beard. Next, I'm going to go ahead and glue that blue piece with the stars in place, butting it up right against the ends of the mop strings, and then adding the little wood plug for his nose. So I guess this is kind of like a gnomish looking Uncle Sam, but I thought this was super cute. Then I kind of unwound the 4 strands of each piece of string so that it was a little fuller and just covered up his face a little bit more. You can see there. Now flipping it over to the back, I have a 5-gallon paint stir stick that I'm going to glue to the back. This is going to let our Uncle Sam stand, and then once that's in place, we will sandwich the bottom end of the stick between our 2 black pieces of our stand. That will let him stand up. And here he is. What do you guys think? I think this is so cute. You can see I also did add a small piece of bamboo skewer there just to help cover up the ends of the mop string. DIY number 19 is another thrift store makeover. This time we're going to take this wooden shutter and make it over in a patriotic theme with some chalk paint and this wooden star. So the first thing I had to do was remove some hardware, but I did want to keep that center hinge because I liked that these 2 were connected and I could use that to have it stand up on a shelf or a table. Once the hardware was removed, you could see the unfinished wood underneath, so I went ahead and sanded around those edges so that it all looked uniform, and then took my antique wax and gave it a nice coat of that dark stain color. Then taking some painter's tape, I'm just taping off the slats area of the shutters, and those top 5 slats on the left, I'm going to use our Ocean chalk paint. I am going to water it down just a little bit to look a little bit more weathered, and then I'm just going to go ahead and stick my brush in there and paint all 5 of those for the blue section of our flag. You can see I was using a piece of cardstock to tuck under the slat that I was currently painting, and then I kind of spread them apart a little bit. Pardon my shoulder. Next, I'm going ahead and I'm painting all of my white slats. It was funny because these shutters actually ended up having 13 slats that would be the stripes, so I thought that was pretty perfect. Taking another one of these larger wood stars from Michael's, I'm just giving this one a coat of the white chalk paint as well, and it will go on our blue section. Then once all the white is dry, now I'm coming through and painting all of my red stripes. And again, the most satisfying part when you get to remove that painter's tape. The finish wasn't perfect, but I was able to just scrape off with my fingernail a couple little spots where some chalk paint had gotten onto the front of the wood. And to finish off this shutter flag, I just then hot glued the white star to the center of the blue square, and everything is finished. And I love that this can, like I said before, stand up on its own because it has that hinge in the center. I love finding new ways to use repurposed or thrifted items. I hope you guys like this shutter flag too. DIY 20 are these really easy Americana wood houses. These wood houses are from Target, but you can find house shapes all over the place. Then just get some Patriotic scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby and some chalk paint. So first thing I'm doing is taking my white chalk paint and I am painting the back side and all the edges with my white chalk paint. The only thing I'm going to leave unpainted is the very front where I will be Mod Podging the scrapbook paper. Once the houses are painted and dried, I am flipping them over onto the back of my different scrapbook papers and just tracing around the shape of the house. Then we will cut our 4 house shapes out and Mod Podge them onto the front of our wood houses. So now applying a little bit of matte finish Mod Podge to the unfinished wood side of our houses. We're going to brush that on, make it nice and smooth with our paintbrush. Then I am going to spritz a little bit of water on the back of the scrapbook paper because it is rather thin. This will help it adhere smoothly to the Mod Podge. So spritz it on, press it down, smooth it out, and then move on to the next house. We'll do this for all 4 of our house shapes. Now once that Mod Podged paper is dry, I'll take my little sander and in a downward motion on the edges, I'm going all the way around to get any of the extra scrapbook paper from the edge and make it nice and smooth. Now you could leave these just like this. I think they're super cute with the 4 different papers. You could add stencils, you could add ribbons or bows, whatever you are feeling. DIY number 21 is this Patriotic cross made out of tumbling tower blocks. You'll need some sort of background to glue it to, some chalk paint, and if you'd like, a stencil. So the first thing I did is lay out my blocks to form a cross. I'm going to end up using 5 blocks that I'm going to paint white, 6 that I'm going to paint blue, I believe, and no, I'm sorry, 7 I'm going to paint blue and 6 I'm going to paint red. So you'll see here I'm just making my separate piles and I'm painting my blocks. We're going to paint them on all the sides except for the very back where we're going to be gluing them down. While our blocks are drying, I'm going to take the antique wax and a baby wipe, and I'm just going to darken up this sign, the background of it, and the entire frame. I just wanted a darker brown to kind of contrast with the red, white, and blue of the cross. And I'm also going to use some more of these wooden laser cut stars. These I actually got from Temu and I love them. You get like 100 of them in the bag and they're really easy to paint. Again, when you use this upside down tape method to hold them down while you paint them. Now I wanted my cross to look a little bit more worn, so I am going to take the time on each of my blocks to sand the edges on all 4 sides. I really like how this ends up looking with the final project. Now here's how we're going to lay out our blocks. That would be a good screenshot to take to help you make your own. And I'm starting by gluing down the bottom one, then I can slide all the rest up and one at a time stack my center column of tumbling tower blocks in order how I want them. You can see how the blue is at the top of my cross and then also the 2 on the left that go off to the side there. Then once we get all of our blocks glued down, we will add our stars as well. I decided to make a beaded hanger for this sign, so I'm just going to use some natural and white wood beads, and I'm just stringing them on a piece of jute twine. Once I get them all on, I'll tie a knot on the end, both ends, once I see how long I need it. And then I'm going to use my staple gun to staple the jute twine to the back of For the final touch on this project, I'm going to use one of our Freedom Minis stencils. I chose to use God Bless America, but this sheet of stencils comes with 12 different choices. There's lots of different things you could make your sign say, or you could just leave it with the cross, perfectly fine and beautiful like that as well. DIY 22 is a Scrabble tile Americana sign. I'm using this thrifted frame, some Patriotic scrapbook paper, a couple of wood stars, and Scrabble tiles. So this frame I've had for a while. It had kind of a yellowish cream color to it. I wanted it to be nice and bright white. So the first thing I'm doing is applying a coat of Waverly chalk paint in Snow White. I'm not worrying about the back, but I am getting the front of the frame and the inside edge and the outside edges all the way around. While that paint is drying, I'm taking my 2 stars here. These happen to be from Magnolia Design Co., but you could use any wood star shapes you'd like. I am tracing them onto the back of this 2 scrapbook papers that I want to use to cover my stars, and then we will cut those out and Mod Podge them onto the front of the stars. Now moving back to our frame, since the paint is dry, I am going to do a layer of Mod Podge over this as well, just so I can ensure that the paint will not get scratched off. Now, once the scrapbook paper is dry on these stars, I'm going to do the same thing I did on the tags, and using my little sander, I'm going in a downward motion on all of the edges to get off any excess scrapbook paper. Next, we're going to trim down the background scrapbook paper that I want to go inside the frame. This is pretty much an 8x10 frame, so I'm cutting this paper at 8x10, and then I am going to use Mod Podge to attach it to the back there of the frame. I did not have the glass for this frame any longer. If I did, I would have probably just put this paper in the frame and then attached my stars and Scrabble letters to the front. But I do like the matte finish look of not having the shiny glass. Now, once that's dry, we will pop the back into the frame. I just really love this scrapbook paper. I will put the link to it directly in the list of supplies that I've used. It is, like I said, in my Amazon storefront. I believe if I can't find it there, I will put the link to Echo Park's website for it because it is really, really cute. And they might even still be having a sale on it right now. I order a lot of their scrapbook paper collections for my paper crafting projects. Now I am laying out my Scrabble letters. I have a stash of these whenever I find a Scrabble game at a yard sale or a thrift store. I love to just throw these in a drawer and I can spell whatever word I want. I'm going to first glue down my middle letter, which is the R, and then we will line the rest of them up from there. Next, once I have my stars placed, I will just apply some more hot glue to those and fit them in at the different angles so that they can fit in on the background paper. And then our last step is we will make a bow for the top left corner. I'm just going to make a loop of this ribbon. I believe this one was from Hobby Lobby. It is wired. And then I'm going to make a straight piece that I'm going to tie to the loop with some jute twine. So you can see I have the loop there on top of just the straight piece. We'll tie our jute twine just like we do for a messy bow. And then that straight piece will become our tails. And then the loops, of course, are the loops. Then once we have our bow made and angled how we want it, I'm going to attach it to the frame with a little bit of hot glue. And here is our finished project. Another one I absolutely love. Very simple to put together, and you can use the supplies that you have. If you don't have Scrabble letters, you could even use stickers to spell America. For DIY number 23, we're going to make some Freedom Mini coasters using this coaster set from Hobby Lobby, a wood crate from Dollar Tree, the same stencils that we used in the Patriotic banner garland, and some paint. So this set of coasters is unfinished wood from Hobby Lobby. It comes with 6 coasters. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm painting 2 of them blue, 2 red, and 2 white. Next, I'm taking this wood crate from Dollar Tree and I'm taping off the 3 sections because I'm going to paint them in red, white, and blue stripes. I'm going to start red at the top. So this is the bottom. I'm taping around and I'm going to paint this bottom section and the bottom of the crate with blue. Once the blue paint is dry, we'll now tape off what will be the top section, and we'll go ahead and paint that all the way around with red. Now that the paint on our coasters is dry, I am going to sand them a little bit so that it's nice and smooth since we are going to be stenciling on this surface. Also, the side edges are sometimes a little rough, so I'm sanding those as well. And I'm going to do that on all 6 of my coasters. Now using these Freedom Mini stencils from Magnolia, I'm going to pick 6 of them and I'm going to lay those down, smooth those down, stick them onto my coasters, and then using my red, white, and blue chalk paste, I'm going to apply these stencils to the front of our coasters. Once our coasters are all done, I'm going to come back to our crate now and tape off both sides of that middle section, and this stripe we will paint white. Now you might be wondering why I'm making this crate to put the coasters in when the coasters already came in a cute little case. Well, it's because I'm going to be adding adhesive cork to the bottom of each coaster to help it absorb any water, and with the cork on the coasters, they will not fit in that container, so that's why I'm making the crate to store them in. So here's that cork I was talking about from Dollar Tree. I'm going to trace each of my coasters onto the adhesive side of the cork, then we'll cut those out and attach them to the bottom of each coaster. I also forgot to say that once the stenciled images were dry on the tops of my coasters, I did spray my coasters with a clear matte spray so the chalk paste would not come off. And then once I have these cork backings onto them, I'm going to spray the fronts again with probably a semi-gloss clear or maybe even glossies so that they will be a little more water resistant. Coming back to my crate, I'm going to then apply some matte finish Mod Podge all the way around the outside of my crate and then let that dry completely. Once that's dry, I'm going to attach some jute twine to the middle section there. I'm going to wrap it around my crate about 3 or 4 times just for some farmhouse look. Then we'll make a really simple jute twine bow by wrapping some twine around our fingers a few times. We'll tie it in the middle and then glue that to the front of our crate. And here's our finished coaster set. So cute. You can see now that that crate has a lot more room for these coasters since they have the added thickness with the cork backing. Love these. Can't wait to use them this summer. And finally, for DIY number 24, we're going to make this Home of the Brave flag house using this house-shaped sign from Target, this wood palette from Dollar Tree, as well as some Scrabble letters and paint. Now I'm just taking some masking tape and I'm just taping off the section that I'm eventually going to paint blue, and we're going to get the rest of this palette painted. Now I thought about doing red and white on these, but I decided instead to paint all 4 pieces red, and then you'll see we're going to add something else in for the white stripes on the flag in just a little bit. So I'm just taking my crimson Waverly chalk paint, coloring or painting in those 4 pieces of the palette, making sure I get in between all of the spaces as well as on the ends. Once that red chalk paint is dry, we'll move our masking tape, and now we're going to paint that top left corner the blue color, which is Waverly chalk paint in the color Ocean. Once all of that paint is dry, I'm going to use my little hand sander and just give a little bit of a distressed look around the edges of our palette, including each of the sections of the palette as well. Next, I'm going to glue 5 of these really small wood stars, I believe from Hobby Lobby, on top of the blue section of our flag. Next, taking this white house shape and some Scrabble tiles, I'm first starting at the top with the word home, placing down my 2 middle tiles, and then we'll build the word out from there. So the Scrabble tiles are going to spell home of the brave going down, and then we'll put the flag underneath the words. Now that our Scrabble tiles are all glued down, we will take a little bit more hot glue and glue down our little wood palette flag to the house shape as well. Now I mentioned that I wanted to add a little bit of white to the flag, so I'm taking some of this nautical, white cotton nautical rope from Dollar Tree. I untwisted it so that I just have one of the strands, and I took a length that I'm going to glue in between the 2 sections of the wood palette from Dollar Tree. So you can see I'm going to have this long piece, I'm going to have one more long piece above that, and then a shorter piece that will go next to our blue rectangle. And the finishing touch for our house sign will be a messy bow. I'm using 2 of these Patriotic ribbons that I believe were both from Hobby Lobby last year. So I have this white one with the blue and red stars, and then I have this burlap one that is navy with some natural colored stars. I really liked these. Take a piece of thin jute twine, bring it across the center, flip it over, and then tie a knot so that you can complete your messy bow. Once you have your messy bow how you like, you can just fluff it out and then glue that to the peak of your house. I'm also going to add a red star button to the center. Thanks again for joining me today. If you stuck with me this long through the video, please let me know in the comments which of these projects was your favorite, and we'll see you next time. Take care.